Well, things have gone wrong quickly down here. In fact, so quickly, this happened before we could get set up. We showed up at the inlet, and this was the scene already going on. As you can see, we've got people in the water, and somebody's gone overboard. Gonna make for an interesting episode. But welcome back, crew, to Boats vs. Haulover, where man and machine take on Mother Nature, usually down at Haulover Inlet, but today we are visiting Boca. So for this one, we're gonna have to take you back to the beginning, but unfortunately, as I mentioned, we weren't quite here for the beginning yet. Fortunately, somebody was standing on the inlet and was able to capture this cell phone footage as we were setting our camera up. But here you can see the vessel that was in the background of the earlier images working their way out of Boca, and it is a rough day. This crew is absolutely getting worked, and as you can see, we've got one person standing outside the cabin of the vessel on the stern of the boat, and all of a sudden, as this crew begins to work their way out, they're going to get the vessel sideways in the seas, and when they do that, the boat starts to roll, and our guy who is sitting out there on the gunnel, well, he's gone overboard. Now, this is a really lucky situation. Far too often in situations like this, when you've got somebody behind the helm, a lot of times people don't even notice this happen. If everybody inside this boat would have been looking forward and not paying attention, this crew probably wouldn't have even realized our guy had gone overboard, and who knows what would have happened at that point. Here you can see the vessel is turning around in the current and the waves, trying to get back to their friend to see if they can get him back on board. But as you can see now that we've got our camera set up, it is just a treacherous day here at Boca to begin with, and for this crew to try and work in these breaking waves and try and get their guy back on board really is just not a good idea. Fortunately, some of the local surfers in the area jump into action to go try and rescue our guy because he fell overboard with no life jacket on. Once again, just reminding you of the importance of, if you're going offshore, especially on a rough day and heading out of inlet, at least for this part of it, maybe have the life jacket in hand or have it nearby. But also the same thing, this crew was fairly close to their guy at one point in time. They should have had access to a throwable immediately where they could have tossed him something to help give him something so he could stay afloat instead of having to just sit out here and tread water in these breaking waves. As we can see, you can tell the vessel's struggling to try and get back over there to get close to him, but fortunately the surfer has made his way over, and now our guy can at least grab onto the board to try and stay afloat. But as you can tell from the mess that's going on here, the chance or the likelihood of this crew being able to pick him up in these breaking waves is pretty darn slim, and the crew figures that out pretty quickly as the surfer waves for the boat just to go ahead and head back in, which is probably the right call in this spot. The surfer's got the guy, he's in a safe position at this time. The problem with the boat being out there is the boat was not in a safe position. Right now we've got one person in the water, but if that boat stayed out there and continued to get pounded and things got worse, we could have 3 or 4 people in the water if this boat wound up capsizing or taking a wave over the bow, losing power, any number of things that could have absolutely made this situation worse. So the boat does decide to go in, but even here you can see how dangerous it is. As you see them approaching in here, how close they were to the rocks on the north side of the inlet. Again, Cap's probably paying attention to too many things at one time. He's got waves battering the boat. He's trying to find the guy who's in the water, all while trying to navigate through a treacherous inlet. That's just too much going on, and all you can do in this situation is get the majority of the crew to safety, especially once you know the crew member who's overboard is not necessarily in a safe spot, but he's not in the immediate threat of danger that he was before, and somebody else is there to assist. And at this point in time, local beach rescue has also been alerted to the scene, and they are working to try and get people out here so they can go ahead and try and rescue them. But our overboard boater was exceptionally lucky in this situation that the surfer saw this happen, as this is not a quick process, especially on a rough day like today. It takes some time to get the ski launched, and then of course in these rough conditions, it takes some time to get the ski out there, and it might not sound so difficult, but honestly, riding a jet ski in these kind of conditions, it's kind of difficult to find people in the water. you're not going to see much. All you're really going to see is the white caps, especially when they're wearing nothing but black like this. They're just going to kind of blend in. There's no real bright colors to help indicate what somebody's doing, which is something else you can do if you're going out there on the water or the ocean. I know you want to look cool, you want to wear black, but maybe wear some brighter colors anyway. If you're wearing bright swim trunks, maybe a bright shirt, and things go wrong, you're going to be one of the easier people to spot out there on the water. So this crew takes several minutes, even once they get launched, to try and find this crew in the water. And at this point, they've been out here for a while, and they've got to get at least the guy who fell overboard back in, and they may even have to help the surfer at this point because he's probably getting tired after being out there this long. So here we can see the crew finally gets over to where the guys are in the water, and they go ahead and grab the gentleman who went overboard off the boat and start working to bring him back in. But what's interesting in this situation is it looks like he dumped the other beach rescue person he had out there with him to pick this guy up. And here we can see the surfer kicking back over to get back to the south side of the inlet, which is where he originally started from. Again, of all the people, I kind of start to feel bad for him. He jumped in to help. Our other guy's getting a ride in on the jet ski, and the surfer's the one who winds up having to try and paddle his way back all the way to the other side of the inlet after jumping in to help. But eventually, as we can see, our jet skier winds up getting our guy back in, and here in a few moments, we're going to see he winds up reuniting him with his crew that's on the boat. Really is a fortunate situation. Right here, we kind of get away with one. I mean, our guy went overboard in nasty conditions, and he winds up being delivered back to his friends on the boat without injury. This one could have definitely gone wrong, and the unsung hero truly in this one isn't even Beach Patrol, even though they'll get the credit for the final rescue. I'm telling you now, I believe if that surfer was not out there to assist this guy, letting him rest on the surfboard, we could have a completely different outcome on this one, and it might not have been pretty at all. But here we can see our guy is getting back onto his vessel safe and sound, and our jet ski's heading back out to pick up the other guy he dropped off. And here we can see the other part of Beach Patrol coming in on one of their vessels to make sure everybody's okay, and this vessel will alert them that everything's good, their guy's back on board. And surprisingly, he seems in great condition in just about every way. I mean, he just sits right down, goes on with the conversation with the boys, almost like nothing happened, and starts telling his story about how he went overboard. But thanks for watching, crew. I know this one's a little different for Boats versus Haulover, but we're going to say Boca goes ahead and wins in a knockout punch immediately. But thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this episode of BVH. If you did, please check out our other content. We have Wavy Boats, who does a bunch of great things down at the inlets. My channel, Broncos Guru, do some great comedy boating videos there as well. And of course, we've got the Miami Boat Ramps channel that focuses on all the hilarity that happens at the boat ramps in South Florida. And if you guys haven't already, go ahead and drop an anchor on the subscribe button here.